So I'm here at ACEM 19 with former Greens leader Bob Brown, who just delivered the Foundation Lecture. Bob, what was your message tonight?
Oh, Amy, the message was this is one little planet that we all share, and it's up to us to save it. It is in diabolical trouble. We all know that. 11,000 scientists told us that a week or two ago, but the political inaction is stunning, and that's going to take community leaders to be much bolder, be active, be out there. And it's wonderful that out of this conference of emergency medicine specialists is going to be a walk through the streets of Hobart to declare a call for action on climate, on the climate emergency. I've never heard of that happening out of a medical conference before. Certainly not on a global issue, a not for ourselves specifically issue. And hats off to the people at this conference.
So what's your analysis of how we've ended up in this political inertia that we're now in on this issue?
We've thrown away the golden rule and become materialists, and we're all into getting more stuff, and whoever offers us the most stuff gets elected. We've got to realise that the planet, we're using 1.7 planets worth of living resources at the moment, and on projections, if we had a growth economy like the politicians want, we'd be using 6 times the Earth's ability to reproduce living matter for our sustenance by the end of this century. That cannot happen. It's crazy. We are headed for disaster, but we have the intelligence to be able to turn that around. And the call is to take action. Just get out of the comfort zone, and if you can't, if you're too busy, write a cheque to those people who are taking action. Whether they're sitting in trees in the Tarkine, they're up protesting and trying to defend this planet against the Adani mine, or whatever it might be, because that really counts.
You did talk about, though, for people who are thinking of protesting, there's a crackdown, there's an unprecedented sort of crackdown on these sort of activities.
There's a crackdown on protest. The Prime Minister's going to penalise so-called secondary boycotts, that is people who boycott companies who back coal mining, for example. A long-held democratic freedom he wants to cut away from the Australian people. But here in Tasmania, the politicians, having had their first draconian laws against peaceful environmentalists thrown out of the High Court 2 years ago, have come back with penalties up to 21 years in jail for peacefully standing in front of a chainsaw going to destroy a 1,000-year-old tree full of wildlife. You know, they've lost the argument. They know they are wrong, so they're going to try to take out the people talking to the planet and for coming generations, you know, for just keeping this planet as beautiful, as well appointed, as life-giving as it is. And their answer is, we'll lock them up. And those laws in Tasmania are harsher than laws in China or Brazil or Russia against peaceful protests for the environment.
Where are we at politically, do you think, from the time that you were in Parliament as to now? How have things changed?
I don't think things have changed too much, nor have the Australian voters. 90% this year voted for more coal mines at the federal elections. So you see, I think, however, there's a rapidly growing realisation that we are in diabolical trouble and we've got to change it. And it's not until voters say, I'm going to ignore the bribes, I'm going to ignore the taxes being made more favourable to me and whatever, I'm going to vote for my grandkids and for this planet at the next election. That's when we'll see change. And we can see that in Europe, the Greens coming through in bigger numbers into parliaments in Switzerland and Germany and Austria and so on. And you can feel that with the climate change youngsters, and what a leadership from young women there is amongst that, including, of course, Greta Thunberg, with so many others around this country and millions of them around the world. I haven't seen this change since the 1960s, and it's a good one to be beholding.
You talked about the role of the media, particularly the Murdoch press, but what do you think the role of the media has been in, I suppose, stalling action on this issue for so long?
It's just the Murdoch media, which in Queensland owns 80% of the papers or more, has become a hate machine against people who want simply to protect the planet. And they, as with these laws, they're aiming in at the people rather than saying, well, let's have a debate about the argument, the argument that we should be going to renewable energy instead of having billionaire Gautama Adani evicting the Aboriginal people and going ahead with his coal mine in central Queensland. The press is the fourth estate. It's hugely important in a democracy. As Jefferson said so long ago, information is the currency of democracy. We're not getting information from Rupert Murdoch, and sadly, from other sections of the media, it infects them as well. Instead of that, we're getting a debate about whether climate change is real or not. 40 years down the line from this debate becoming real in Australia, 150 years from the first woman scientist in America saying, hey, carbon might warm up the planet. That's a cop-out, and we need a press advocacy for the planet that we haven't seen today except in very specialised media.
And you talked about the importance of it's a time for defiance. You talked about Paul Watson in particular, but what's your view of your vision of what this defiance should look like?
We're going to need millions of people on the street to demand a change in this climate emergency, including the end of burning coal for electricity when there's such good, cheaper alternatives which are not threatening the planet. We need thousands of people in the forests of Australia, like the Tarkine Forest here in Tasmania, but in Victoria and elsewhere, because as the United Nations said, the quickest way to tackle climate change is to stop destroying native forests. And of course, the quickest way to stop extinctions is to preserve the habitat of species facing extinction. But where is the thousands of people in the streets on the climate emergency, except for the young people? Where are the professions getting out and demanding action? Where is the urgency given, because this is the most crucial issue facing humankind. Where is the priority in the parliaments, in the boardrooms? It's changing, and in fact, the boardrooms are changing faster than the parliaments, but it's up to we the people to throw out the people who are obstructing action on this and to bring in good-hearted people who can see our grandchildren, who can see our fellow species on this planet, who can see that it's up to us and take according action.
You said you're the happiest you've ever been despite all of this. How do you remain hopeful?
Well, I'm happy because I do see this transformation taking place. And I'm also aware that I live in arguably one of the richest countries on the planet, and it's democratic, and I can take action, including sitting in trees or standing in front of bulldozers, which is a crucial component of the defiance we need in this age, no matter what draconian laws they bring down, because saving the planet is more important than tugging the forelock to misguided politicians acting on behalf of corporates who want to vilify politicians. I'm just happy that I'm alive and able to take action at this time. And I say to people who come up and are very, very sad about this and troubled about it, I'd say, well, you're burdened with intelligence, and you have to get over it. And don't get depressed, take action.
You were asked about the Stop Adani damage to the election campaign, blah, blah, blah. I'm interested in what was your response to that question?
Yeah, the media, sections of the media, and of course the Liberals in particular, have been keen on saying the Stop Adani convoy helped them back into office. If only we could determine it. The fact is that if Bill Shorten, as Labor leader, and the Labor Party had said, I'm going to stop Adani, as Bob Hawke said nearly 40 years ago, I will stop the Franklin Dam, I think he'd be Prime Minister now.
Thank you so much.